Hello everyone, I am Waleeporn Sayasit. Thank you for being here at OPEN-TEC. Today we will talk with the guru who is the top executive from one of the largest retail business in this region. We are excited to hear how he can manage digital technology to transform business. And now, let's join us to welcome CTO from Central Group, Kun Axel Winter.
สวัสดีค่ะคุณ Axel
สวัสดีครับ
Are you ready for the first question?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, would you please tell us about your past experience and your present role at Central Group?
Actually, it's quite a bit also in Thailand right now. As you saw, I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Central Retail Corporation Outlets. But we also operate in Vietnam, and we are also the largest luxury retailer in Europe, so it's quite a bit. And then we also have the joint venture with JD.com. We have heavily invested in Grab in Thailand, and so on. So there is quite a bit dynamic. Before I came to Central Group, actually, in Thailand, when the internet started, it was actually before the first web browser happened, maybe around 93, 94. I had with a few other talented colleagues a startup in Thailand to help set up the internet. We help some of the today internet service providers. We help IBM, CNN, Deutsche Bank, also a few local companies to start with internet service, internet email, and also even e-commerce. And then as the browser came, we helped people transitioning to the first kind of web applications in a sense. In Thailand, it was true in Thailand. We worked in Myanmar, in Laos, Indonesia, so quite a bit as a startup. And then as life goes, I got excited about traveling around and doing more technology initiatives, also in big organizations. And then I moved to Accenture in 97. Then still called Anderson Consulting here in Thailand, actually. And then started both helping Thai organizations on their e-commerce strategy, e-business strategy. Kasikorn was one of them, and CM Cement Group, amongst others. But also traveled for 8 years. I was at Accenture and traveled around the world, Thailand being obviously one, and Singapore, Hong Kong, worked with Hutchinson Whampoa there. In Singapore was HP Compaq, and in Japan, Sony, and so on, right? So for a long while. In 2004, I started again I came back to Thailand. I was traveling also in Europe and had some projects with Accenture there. And then end of 2004, I started with GE Capital as a CTO for Asia. At the time, GE Capital was the biggest consumer finance company in the world. It's also the biggest credit card issuer, if you know financial services well. And we had almost 500 million accounts worldwide, and I started as a CTO for Asia with the Thai business. Also helped the Thai business to grow as a CTO for Thailand, and then later became the global chief architect at GE Capital Group. And it's a funny story in a sense is that I worked in Bangkok, but my team was in New York and in London. In a sense, so I kept traveling around every quarter. I keep traveling around the world one time. To see the different GE businesses there, and also played a role at Hulu. Now streaming is very popular. I helped the Hulu.com team with their technical architecture of how they should be started. So happy to see this working out well now. And then later I worked for Deloitte and Cisco Systems as a CTO in the region. as Deloitte, as a consultant again. So I like adventures, like going around. And before Central, my last job was the global chief architect at Standard Chartered Bank out of Singapore.
Okay. So based on your experience, you travel a lot all over the world, and you have experience in the telecom, consulting, and also banking business also. How you see the challenge and opportunity in the retail business?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you see, as in every industry, actually, the digitization, but also the startup activities are changing fundamentally how industries are working, right? And in effect, what you can also say is that across multiple industries there is a convergence of the industries, right? So actually, you could say it started a long time ago. If you think about a retail oil business, they started with convenience stores and adding supermarket type of setups to their fuel station, and now you see restaurants and coffee shops and everything at the fuel station, right? And so every industry has started also to look at conversion, a kind of a bit of a conversion. Particularly though, if you look at B2C, the B2C segment, it converges around retail, consumer banking, consumer finance, and also telecommunication or data type of data technology services, right? So you can say that companies, ultimately companies which, again, retail, which are selling something, and financial service players to provide, let's say, payment and short-term loans to allow you to buy products and manage your credit history. Data technology services, social networking, all of these type of, it comes much closer together. You can see actually, in effect, if you look at Google and Facebook, where they invest is to create better tools, better APIs, better integration with the shopping companies. Google Shopping is a good example. Facebook has a similar analytics platform where you can push advertisements but also understand what customers are doing. You can see Facebook is investing in its own marketplace technology, integrating with retailers around the world. And as are banks, I know my old place, Standard Chartered Bank, have started Nexus as a startup, which is actually there to support e-commerce, payment, and consumer finance. In a sense, started in Asia, so rolling out over the region. In Europe, you have Klarna Bank, which does the same. I think it does about 2/3 of all e-commerce transactions in the UK are paid through or running through Klarna Bank, which is only there to service e-commerce players. It doesn't have really its own standalone consumer and branch network or anything like that. So you can say that these industries, and this is true for Thailand, they'll have to converge. Now for retail specifically, if you take the subset of retail is, where retail is going, of course it has to work online. Of course it has to think about what is a meaning of marketplace between a store and between an online platform. How can I, which is what we are doing, how can you create a marketplace which is accessible in the store? Because some people still like to go to the store, of course many people do, COVID times, but of course equally many and increasingly are trying to address their shopping needs online. So this mix for us is this handshake between on and offline, between the store and an online platform becomes extremely important, and that was visible 3-4 years ago. You can remember some of the US retail outlets started becoming very weak, and some went into bankruptcy protection. And it's clearly the situation in Asia is a different one because their lifestyle venues is a shopping center today. And if you go to Central World, it's a fantastic place to eat, to watch a movie, if you can, and maybe even look at some exhibition or something. And then, so the situation is different, but again, of course, people's behavior or supercharged by COVID changes, and we need to, as a retail organization, be part of that. Now, the answer for Central was to build up within Central Retail the IT organization, the technology organization, which I have the honor to lead. And we, as I said before, we're having development capability to create these tools here in Bangkok, here in Thailand, in Vietnam, and in Hungary as a center of excellence.
So you have to create lots of tools related to online business and how to link the online to offline, right? And create link
Yes.
all the ecosystem from retail, financial, the data, technology, right? Do you find it's difficult to justify the large-scale digital transformation initiative? Do you have any techniques or key indicators that you can share to our audience?
It's a difficult thing because what happens is that successful organizations start to slow down in the way they fundamentally change, right? So the issue is not that you are an unsuccessful organization and you need to transform to become successful, but it's actually usually organizations and companies which are already very successful. And you look at many of the Thai banks, they're quite successful in an old model. You look at retailers, you look at telecommunication companies, any company, but what happens is that they're successful in one business model, in one way of doing things, in a sense, right? They have stores, and then somehow they are not jumping into experimental mode to trying out new things and to trying to continuously change. And I thought that good examples of organizations who keep changing is, if I look at my own employment history, is definitely Accenture and Cisco, two organizations. So leave alone what they do in detail, but if you actually look at them and you take a view of 10, 20, 30 years, both of them have continuously and rapidly changed, actually lead the change in the industry. Cisco has advanced its product portfolio by using its significant capital to acquire startups and integrating them. Actually, there is second to none. My experience is in Cisco systems is that an organization which looks trends globally, they're already there, but then they invest and buy startups to address this trend, and then they can turn around these new integrated products almost on the day of closing the acquisition. There's already a sales team in every country going out and selling these new products. Second to none in the world, in my opinion. Right? It's an extremely impressive operation from that perspective. Now, Accenture is the same. If you look again, so when I joined Accenture, it had about 40,000 staff. Now, a very huge organization. And again, if you look at their history of adding services, of course, it had consulting, implementation services, and so on. And now they are invested heavily in digital over the last 6-7 years. Now is user experience, customer experience, and capabilities. You can see Accenture acquiring a long list of these type of companies, and you can see that is also a meaning to us because to you and to me, in the sense is that the next wave is not to purely be digital, but actually to create a second to none customer experience, to integrate these touch points which consumers have within an organization and across organizational boundaries. Again, retail and banking is a very good example of how this can flow in. So if you're at a checkout and you're buying a product, why can I not have a recommendation of investing some money? Who's to say that is not a good idea, right? So you can see that this is the important part, and this is what some organizations forget. They are successful in their own rights, and then they have to step up and revisit how customer experience, how business processes work, what is their level of capability, and then start enhancing their capability to address kind of new ecosystem challenges. Again, Central Retail has done this, I'd say, quite successfully. A lot of organizations beaten also or driven by clear shifts in consumer, but also in B2B business behavior. And also, of course, COVID again is COVID is kind of the big stress test for in our times for digitization and efficiency in a sense, right? So whoever wasn't digitized and they entered into COVID, they will have seen that this does not work well. People cannot go to a branch, cannot go to a store. A business still needs to operate. So how do you do that, right? I mean, there's no one to sign. You cannot also, I mean, if you look at internal processes, HR, finance, and so on, mountains of paper to sign in some companies, clearly that cannot work anymore, right? It's not the way things come. So hence these transformations become of significant importance.
So what you mean for this, for the justification point is, for example, like if the company would like to have the good customer experience, to have the good process, right, and also have the good staff capability, then they have to invest in the digital, right? And the COVID is the event that testing the capability of the company. If they like reluctant to invest in the digital, they may have to face some kind of difficulties during the situation like COVID, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. I think you can actually go through your daily life as a consumer and see, for example, Starbucks is very good to connect on and offline. They have immediately with COVID enhanced their app and line channel, making sure that you can order online, and of course with GrabFood and Lineman and so on. They have drive-throughs. They send updates to people how to remotely order and so on. And in effect, the app also gives you input on that, and I think there are some businesses where you can see they can react very fast, and I think if you think about transformation in that way, is you actually want to have the ability by the ecosystem you create. So there are people with capability, technical and in the business, who understand what needs to be done, and then you have business partners and so on, and you have the ability to turn these things around within weeks, not within months or years. This is the shift, right? So the true goal of transformation, actually, in my view, is that you increase your capability and in all domains, and then have an ability to drive lean, as I say, lean and mean. I'd say lean and agile in a digital way. Very rapid change, continuous change, because who could have known in January that there is going to be COVID, right? No one knew how it's going to play out. So if you believe in the old model of delivery of, okay, I have a project plan, I have a requirement, and then I deliver, and then in 2 years I'm ready with something. If this is the mindset you have as an organization, that cannot work in this world. It's just absolutely impossible for this method to still work. What we need to do is we need to create again capability with people. We need to create as in business infrastructure, meaning standardized, optimized processes, standardized, optimized technology, which is adaptable, both on the process and technology side. And then be able to turn around this change within weeks. This is the goal of our time, and we have COVID now, we have climate change, we have political implications across the globe, and so there could be trade wars coming on, as we have seen, and so all of these things can only be addressed by a fast-paced changing business. This is the challenge of our times.
Can you share us your lesson that you learned so far, the key lesson that you learned from your experience?
Yes, happy to. I think in a sense is that the good thing is we started this journey 3 years ago, and then I think so. When COVID arrived, not specific only to COVID, but also to pick this example, is of course there were platforms, people, capability to manage this, to manage the uptake in digital commerce, online commerce, e-commerce, quite a bit, and also adjust. For example, pick up locations increasing pickup locations was one of them. And so there were many requests, let's say special promotions, and so on, which we had to adjust when these stores were closed. So for me, it's kind of clear that the journey we took is good. I think the lessons learned, they're good and they're good and bad lessons, right? I think we always get stuck a bit about there is a problem, but I think in fact we also should focus on the good things we learn, right? So I say that is having a multidisciplinary, quite diverse team. I mean, in all directions. We have foreigners here. We have, of course, many very talented Thai folks, male and female. I mean, gender-wise, it's an extremely diverse team. And so I'm very happy on it. The ethics are very high, as in people wanting it to work out, right? There is this is not like, hey, it's 6 p.m., I want to go home, but it's how can we win this? How can we do this? There's some good ideas from the business colleagues or in the team. How can we do this tonight, right? Type of thing. And I think so. I'm very proud on that attitude. I think the other thing is it reinforces my belief is the last let's say 3.5 years and also the last couple of months is that procrastination in the business, not being able to make a decision is a true enemy. Right. So everybody who believes that they're good where they are, that may be true today. But if you don't play it forward, if you don't continue to evolve, then there is it does not help. So then if I see I'm good now in the COVID period, well, but clearly be it in terms of scalability, of resources, be it in terms of, let's say, data insights, customer insights, business insights, supply chain, wherever there are issues. I think the duty now is to say, hey, what happened there, and how can we make this even better, right? Not to rest on the laurels, but keep making decisions, keep driving forward, keep changing the organization, not to fall, not to by accepting a certain success, saying, okay, we are successful, we don't need to change, right? And it sounds like a normal, but I can tell you that this is not what many organizations do. I think it's a lot of times organizations tend to feel good about a certain set of wins and then not think about changes. Now, for me is I think I try my best to lead. I try to be the best to share my own experiences with the team and also with the business, and saying, hey, what could I have done differently? Where could I have excelled more? And I think that's a good and healthy way to have a discussion around what are the lessons learned.
How to lead and motivate your people to transform this business?
For me, I'm very honest about also my mistakes. Of course, the things which I might have done well, I like the team, my team to share and to comment on. But if I feel I have made a mistake, then I come out and say so. About a year or so back, I had a very stressful period. And I also share with my whole team, saying, "Hey guys, sorry, it was a very stressful time for me, out of whatever reason." And I definitely gonna work on my change. And everybody was very happy, right? Because it was obvious that I had a stressful time and so on. And then when I shared it, we have a kind of an online chat. For any topic, right? And then as I shared my kind of my own evaluation about myself, then I said, well, you're far too critical on yourself, Axel, slow down, right? And this is what my team was saying, right? And some people also give very constructive feedback. So I sent a survey out saying, hey, what should I do more? What should I do less? And you would say some people, everybody gives you top marks. because you're the boss. No, that's not true, right? People were very, very considerate. They said, hey, this one, I think you're doing very well. This one, hey, it might be good for you to revisit, think about how you deal with that topic, right? And without going into personal details, but I thought it's I was very confident that the people working with me, and I would say it is probably true for many organizations. They first of all they have good intent, they have a good heart, and but also they are very considerate. I mean, even downright to the most junior person in the organization, they really think things through and have points, right? So it's I would stress to every leader and every manager to listen to the people they're working with. And again, I found that specifically the people you are entrusted to who work, let's say, below you in the pyramid, right? Although it's not really like that anymore nowadays. It's a teaming organization, but even though take their feedback serious, go out, ask and listen, because the best feedback you have from people who are again organizationally layered below you, right? They have because they know they work with you every day, whereas your boss tends to be, and this is my experience, tends to be for him, him or her tends to be important to focus on the KPIs, right? I mean, it's just like your boss. Hey, you want to achieve 3, 4, 5 things in a year, and then as long as you achieve them, and then you have happiness, right? But the people below you, they tend to think, well, if he could just ease up on this or that, or focus on this, right? I mean, they have a much richer, in a sense, very often a much richer viewpoint, because they have to stand here every day, right?
Yes.
And we might have an opinion how we are as a leader, but without asking, we would not know. So it's a very good thing to very encouraging everyone to reach out and have a 360 review, also peers in other departments, and anonymously, so that everybody can share their thoughts, and then we think some of the things may not be true, and then you don't take them on, but you clearly focus on the feedback, and if where they are true, you adopt it. And I found that these items, that you admit your mistakes, that you listen, that you learn, that you grow with your team around it, you're open for feedback. Also, sometimes there are tough discussions, tough arguments being traded. But in general, if this is your mindset, I think that creates a very healthy environment, and also humbles us.
Okay, good, Axel. I really like this mindset. Actually, it's very difficult for the leader to listen and learn from the team, right? And you are very open. And I think I agree with you that this is very good approach. And it's very difficult for the leader to accept, to admit the mistake. How you apply technology to create the customer experience or to serve business partner and ecosystem?
Well, I mean, this is a big topic, obviously, and it's like we could talk probably about this for days. I think it's I think the mistake I see people doing. Let's start with a negative in mind. That you know, in a sense, though, that people tend to not strategize about it, but they tend to look at it from a reactionary point of view, right? And I think if you start this journey of creating, let's say, a new app or a new customer flow, and this is the same whether this is for consumers or business customers, I think in a sense, though, is you need to understand where the customer is coming from, what is their interest, right? And kind of focus groups. Maybe you start with your own opinion first, and also because you have a story to tell in an app which might not be the same as others, but ultimately you do need to serve your customers, so you can also not run away from that, right? And you know, when you ask Steve Jobs before, he would have said is, don't ask the customer, they don't know what they want, right? We need to tell them what they want. and should be meticulously good in that. Yet, if you look at their online sites and their shops, the funny thing is they also, Apple and as any other company, also tries to optimize the flows based on a continuously improving customer experience. And I think this is for me the key is when we talk about digital products, we need product design, someone who thinks about what is this product to be, how should it be, and this is even true for a website or an app. And at the same time, after we start with a minimum set of features. What we need to and be very strategic about that. We need to make sure that we start adding features by understanding how is the product being used, what is the customer feedback, and we can see where people click on and where they're not click on. We can see people are confused and maybe stay longer in certain steps in a flow. And then you take the information you have and update the product. We can have customer viewers. It's funny, I have a friend of mine, CFO at a Thai public company, and then he suddenly said, well, the platform I use from you is really good, but there's one thing, when I have approval workflow, I trust my team, but I need to approve. The app does not auto log in. I get an email, I click, and it doesn't auto log in, right? But on the laptop it works because the browser remembers the login credentials, right? But it doesn't link like that into the app. And he said he wished it would. And then that's a good feedback. And then it's strategically good to say, hey, customer approval is an important thing, and so of course we have the ability to add this feature and adjust that in a short time. And this type of keep going, keep focusing, but also keep the strategy, right? Because what the mistake is, corporations have two issues usually. They talk about strategy a lot, and they change their mind. So they cannot execute, right?
Yeah.
So they keep at this strategy discussion level, but they cannot execute. And when they do start executing, they still question whether that execution is the right thing while you execute. So sometimes you run this straight line and then whoosh, you go left. Well, if you do that once or twice, maybe, but if you keep doing that, you definitely do on the right at any point. And then you cannot be successful. And that leads to a significant investment from corporate. So if you look at some of the big banks in the world, they spend $2 billion a year in digital investment. And this is part of the reason, because they over-strategize, they're overbid, and they keep changing their opinion of what they need to execute. Right? And a lot of people don't believe it, but I can tell you that coming from banking, you can also overspend. It's not only that but you can also overspend. So the question is, are you having smart money, smart investment? This is the real question, and that is a very complex thing to measure whether your investment is smart. That's the problem.